As many of you guys know, Asmongold has been in the news for criticizing Islam and the culture surrounding it. And as a newly converted Muslim myself, I figured I would address these criticisms and mainly misconceptions about the religion. I'm somebody that was atheist my entire life. I didn't believe in any God. But as soon as I saw how based Islam was, I converted and my life has been much better ever since. So today we're going to break down point by point some of the criticisms and misconceptions people have. Before we talk about the modern day conflict, let's talk about some of the controversies of the past. Now, many of Asmongold's viewers have a problem with the Prophet Muhammad himself, mainly that he was 51 years old and married a 6-year-old. And many people hear this and they assume the worst. And that's a lie. The Prophet Muhammad did not have sex with his 6-year-old wife. He waited until she was 9. And honestly, that's pretty risky because around the age of like 9, especially 10 or 11, all women are whores. So the fact that he waited that just shows you how much of a gentleman he truly was. Next up, we have LGBT rights in Islam. The penalty for being gay under Islam is death. Now, I'll admit that seems a little extreme, but once you view things in the full context, it makes a lot more sense. And I'll give you an example that the Asmongold viewers will understand. Think about how bad the Star Wars movies and TV shows have gotten. Do you get where they're coming from now? Like, doesn't it make a lot more sense? The next problem people have with Islam is the acceptance of marrying your first cousin. Now, ironically, it's the conservatives that have a problem with this, and you would think that the party of family values would appreciate being able to marry your first cousin. But no, they have a big problem with it. That just goes to show you how hypocritical they truly are. Now, from my point of view, if she's not good enough for family, she's not good enough for me. But what about the whole death to the infidels and killing the non-believers? Well, I'm here to tell you that these quotes out of the Quran are completely taken out of context. And in fact, if you read the full quote, it will tell you that Allah is both forgiving and merciful. Speaking of controversial quotes, most of you guys viewing this video are men, but let's talk to the few women out here that are going to get real upset about this whole quote of men being better than women and God loving men more than women. The truth hurts, and you guys are kind of just a burden and a pain in the ass. But it's not illegal to be this based. And if you are somebody that was a little on the fence about Quran, you see this and, I mean, you got to get in, man. My man Muhammad is straight cooking with this. While we're on the subject of women being a pain in the ass, let's talk about the quote from the Quran that says that it's okay to beat your wife. Now, at first, this doesn't make sense. But as somebody who's newly married, I understand where they're coming from. So if I've had a bad day, what really helps me is just taking it out on my wife. And it's a win-win situation because I'm in a better mood and then she's in a better mood because I'm in a better mood. It's like ripping a Band-Aid off. It's unpleasant at first, but once you have it ripped off, it's a lot better for everyone. So, Muhammad, again, absolutely based. But what about that quote from the Quran that encourages you to own slaves and have sex with your slaves? Well, see, this is something called right by conquest. Many of you know it from Game of Thrones. If you don't, I highly recommend you watch Game of Thrones. So now that we have all that out of the way, let's talk about the modern day conflict. It started on October 7th, where there was a pro-Palestinian protest at an Israeli music festival. Now, this protest did get a little rowdy, but it was a mostly peaceful protest to the open-air prison that is Gaza. Now, we're not going to get into the specifics of this protest, but needless to say, Israel is being a little dramatic about the whole thing, so we'll just leave it at that. So what was Israel's response to this mostly peaceful protest at this music festival? That's right, exactly what you'd expect. Those Israeli devils sent missiles to specifically kill women and children. After Israel escalated the conflict, Hamas had no choice but to fight back. And of course, all of the Israel bootlickers love to come out and criticize how Hamas fights their wars, saying that they shouldn't set up their headquarters inside of a hospital for women and children, or they shouldn't use children as shields for military vehicles. But I'm here to tell you that's called tactics. And all of the Islamophobic people criticizing these tactics are just haters, because you don't see these people criticizing the Spartans for using the phalanx or, the British army for using firing lines. This is pure racism. Another thing Hamas gets a lot of backlash for is being resourceful. Hamas has used water pipes given to them as aid for missiles. And there's a lot of people that have a problem with this. And to those people, I say you need to read a book called The Art of the Deal. So this war's been going on for over a year now, and there's been a ton of Israeli propaganda talking about how Hamas is just a terrorist organization. And my response to that is, how could they be? They were voted in by the Palestinian citizens themselves. Hamas didn't just take over. They got voted into power by their constituents. This is democracy. Not only did Hamas get voted in, they're popular. 71% of the Palestinian citizens agree with Hamas. Hamas is just a political party, like the Republicans are a political party, except Hamas isn't evil. Anyway, that's all I have for today. I hope this video helped clear things up for you Asmongold viewers. And I want to leave you with one thing, and that's that before you just go spewing random Islamophobia on the internet, just look around. When you're using your iPhone, interacting with modern technology, and enjoying the modern qualities of life we have today, think about how many of those came from the culture of Islam. What would we do without Islam? The world would be a much worse place.